I don't know who you are, but welcome to the Irish Photography Podcast. Sit back, relax, and listen about cameras, gear, settings, stories, and all things photography. Join Darren on Ireland's Best Photography Podcast. Let's go.
You're very welcome to episode 139 of the Irish Photography Podcast. My name is Darren, I'm your host, and I'm joined by somebody whose work I've admired from a long period of time. I've never met him, but we've spoken a number of times via Instagram and such like that, and he's a fantastic photographer. He hails from Dublin. Neville, how are you doing? Neville Lawless, or otherwise known as Lawless Ireland. Welcome to the Irish Photography Podcast.
Thanks very much, Darren. I'm going to say you insulted me straight out, though. I'm from Kilkenny.
Oh, Jesus, there you go.
That was a great start. But yeah, I'm guilty of living in Dublin for
there you go.
Okay, must be 60 years or so since I was in college a long time ago. So yeah, I'm nearly half a Dublin now, but I'm Kilkenny man, heart through heart, I suppose.
I'll get away with the faux pas Dublin then, yeah. So yeah, I mean, look, I've admired your work, and I think it's something that I'm really excited to kind of get into, and the nitty gritty and the kind of motivation behind your photography. And you mentioned there from a college point of view, I suppose, is that when you started in photography, or was photography something that was beforehand, or was photography not that you studied in college? How'd you get started?
I started probably about 7 or 8 years ago. I work as an engineer actually in Intel in a department called optical lithography.
Okay.
And from college and stuff, I had an interest in optics and physics and that sort of stuff. And it was only after I was on holidays with my missus in Erica in Morocco one year, and I was using some old Samsung phone or something, and she's like, "God, you love taking photos, don't you?" And after that, she bought me a cheap Nikon D3300, and that got me into it. So, but I remember that trip to Morocco was definitely something that definitely spurred me into photography. Do you know, it's sort of that culture shock you feel when you get somewhere. You're like, I need to have pictures of this just for when I'm older, not to show anybody even, but just to have them yourself.
Yeah,
just seeing just lads walking around with camels and just crazy stuff that you'd never see, in the sights and smells. So that's definitely what sort of got me into photography and streets, urban sort of photography as well, for sure.
Yeah, and it's interesting there because, again, I know your work from a street urban point of view, and was it when you were as you say, in Morocco, like you obviously got the camels and so forth like that, and also you got the sand dunes, but then you were drawn to the kind of the street scenes and getting the people and stuff like that, is it? So was it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Like, yeah, I suppose in Morocco you're in the desert. You might be in the desert for the night in Sahara or something, but you spend a week or 2 weeks walking around the back alleys and the souks and all those. So that sort of thing interests me. Like, it's just capturing that thing that I didn't even know what street photography was back then. I just felt I had to have a picture of it. I'm sure that's probably what most people think, but then some people just don't feel attracted to it at all. They prefer to just absorb the sights and smells themselves and not do anything further with it. So I think that's definitely what pushed me into it, really.
Yeah, and the interesting thing for me is, like, I often pigeonhole myself and say I'm a landscape photographer. That's it. I don't do anything else. But I have gone into Cork City Centre with my camera, and I have taken photographs. And it is something that I won't say I didn't enjoy. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I found the difficult part really was you're taking pictures of strangers, and I'm going, okay, do they really want me taking pictures of them? But you see the guys that are out there. And you as an example, you're out there all the time. You're used to having the camera in your hand. It's kind of second nature. You don't feel out of your comfort zone. So you probably feel equally as comfortable in the street photography point of view as I would be in the landscape point of view, I imagine, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and if I'm heading into town on Saturday, I'll probably just throw the camera on the shoulder and go and walk around with it. And not think much of it. It's when if you're out and, say, walking around Cork City and you have your big lens on and you start feeling like, God, am I looking like a bit of a creep or something? Yeah. But if you just don't mind anybody, just shoot away and do your thing. People just assume that lad's doing something there. He's not looking at me. He couldn't be looking at me. Or they sort of like, he's shooting something there in the difference, and nobody thinks that of it. And it's not that you're capturing. It's hard to describe as well. You're trying to capture a quick moment,
Uh-huh.
which could be, an interesting character, or, sort of a scene unfolds. You might have some nice sort of shadow scene set up, and you need something to walk in, someone to walk into the frame, or something to happen. Really,
Yeah.
like say
Yeah.
with your sunset hitting the side of the cliffs or something. You need something to change the scene, and that's sort of what you'd be waiting for. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe people could be sort of inconsequential to the scene, but they make it.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, that something comes to mind. It was one I remember seeing years ago. It was like as if it was an advert for a mobile phone company, because it was a billboard and somebody had a phone in their hand, and somebody walked past with a phone in their hand in exactly the same position as the person that was in the poster. And that's somebody who's looking for the shot, sees that's there, but is waiting, as you say, for somebody to walk into the scene to
Yeah,
complement
100%, definitely.
what's in the back. And I think
Yeah,
that to me, I'm actually kind of intrigued by that, because you can create a story from something that nobody would even be looking at twice, because it happens probably many, many times, but you're
yeah.
there with the camera to be able to capture that shot. So I think it's a fascinating thing for me. I haven't done it, like I said, that often, but as you say, I mean, you go into town on a Saturday, throw the camera over your shoulder, you never know what you're going to get. You never know who's going to pop up.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. I think you described it really well there. So I wouldn't sound particularly good at that, unfurling a story in the street. Real hardcore street photographers now, that's what they strive for.
Yeah.
I'm much more sort of maybe aesthetic, and I like sort of maybe cinematic type scene, that I think this looks nice, and then wait for something to happen, as you're saying. Yeah, so probably different approaches. If we're in a street, there's on I'm trying to think of the name of the site now. Tiny Pick, or one of the hardcore street photography websites. You'd be laughed out of it for having some sort of, like, using the sun or anything. It's all about people and their actions, and sort of how they act. But
Yeah.
everybody's different, I suppose. Like,
And you know what I mean? Look, as you say, everybody's different in what they like, but everybody's different as well how they take photos. Because I remember, again, when I first started looking at street photography images, I'm wondering, is somebody using a mobile phone to take those photographs? Because you're kind of inconspicuous with your mobile phone. You could be as if you're taking an ordinary photograph, which technically speaking you are. It's the same thing, but you're
yeah.
looking at the scene in a different way. So would you use your phone to take photographs, or would you use the camera?
Yeah, it's a good question. For, like, if I'm walking around the street and interacting with people, I probably wouldn't be using. I try and rarely use the phone.
Okay.
But if I'm out, on a nice sunset or something, I'll use my phone for, a reflection shot, or some nice sunset, or doing something like that. Because I find people react different to if you hold up your phone like that. That's taking a picture, whereas with a camera, with an actual your Fuji or whatever, you can be shooting away, and then someone walks past you, you can keep shooting, and they'll think, he's taking a picture of the cathedral or something in the background.
Yeah.
Whereas your phone is like it's a red flag. Someone go, he's taking a picture of me, and I tend to wouldn't use in that case. Yeah. And I've seen guys street photographers on YouTube and stuff, and they say they'll walk around with their their earphone as a trigger, and use the phone as well. So it's definitely a technique that people use, and I suppose with what phone cameras can do these days, like, if it's a street image, you'd probably get away with for quality, for print wise and stuff. But
Yeah, I saw one actually. I saw a guy. He had a GoPro on a chest strap, and he had the remote thing on his wrist, and he would just walk around as if he was doing nothing, and then be taking the photographs, so nobody would have known. So he came up with it because somebody challenged him and said, "I bet you I could get a photograph of you and you wouldn't even know it." And he
really,
said,
okay, yeah.
And he said, "No, of course you wouldn't." He goes, "Of course I'd know you took a photograph of me." He goes, "Okay," and he showed him the photograph. He had already had it done because he had the GoPro on his chest, but it was just taking the shot with that. But
yeah.
like that, I think that's one way where you can catch a candid moment. But there's a guy actually I follow on Instagram, Alexander the Great. He's a guy in the US. He's just gone absolutely ridiculously viral now because he's doing videos with his street photography. But he's going up to people with his camera in his hand and announcing that he's a street photographer. He wants to take some portraits of them. He shows them some images on his phone. They see, wow, I want that too. Now, of course, people he picks, they're a bit of exhibitionists. I mean, I'm sure many people in Ireland go, not a chance, you get no photograph of me by your grand. But people like to be able to do that. So, like, there's two sides to that then, I think, isn't there? Because if you've got the camera, you look like you know what you're doing, then somebody is probably going to take that more seriously too, I imagine.
If you look like you know what you're doing and you act like it, nobody questions it at all. And I've heard one or two people which is a tiny number, saying that someone said to like, "Oh, you take my picture, please don't," or whatever, and you have to respect that 100%. Like, but I've no one's ever said anything like that to me. And I've definitely approached one or two people, like an older, interested man, maybe with tattoos or something, saying, "Do you mind if I take your photo? You're really unique." And then generally they'll be all about it. But
yeah,
it's hard to approach people like that in that respect. But some people are fantastic at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, especially in Ireland as well, it's a bit awkward.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing, you know. It's like,
I don't get a camera.
Yeah. I don't want to be at any photograph. Like, and who'll be watching this? Who's going to know I'm on the street at this time? Everybody be conspicuous, you know. And I suppose with that in mind, then, you know, with the different styles of photography that you would take from a street point of view, I see that you have images with people, but I also see you've got images of buildings and you've got architectural images as well. So, like, what do you like most about your style of photography from a street point of view?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I was having to think about this prior to the come out. I suppose I like sort of the aesthetic of urban sort of situations. So some people might say it's not street photography. It's not people and emotions and stuff like that. But definitely I do just from living in the city for so long, for 16 or so years. Like you have to sort of do what you can while you're in the city, say. So yeah, I am sort of aesthetic, trying to create a scene that doesn't look like what you normally see. So I definitely like going out on a misty evening. You'll head off to the to the riverside or something just to get like a misty scene. I'll go into the city and use the mist and the lights and the neons and stuff like that to try to work to my advantage. In the summertime, it's not as easy. There's not as much, as much atmosphere, I suppose.
Correct.
Yeah, and so if you're trying to use light and shadow then in the daytime or sunset, if you can, you can, but you have the option, like you can, frame up a nice view along the river, or head to a like real urban area and use angles of the buildings, cranes, anything you can sort of make some sort of frame or something to make your images a bit more interesting. What people like to see, I think, is when they see something they see every day, but framed in such a way that they go, Jesus, I never thought of that. People say, the fucking pool bag chimneys, like, they're in hundreds and thousands and millions of shots in Dublin. But if you can take a unique photo in your own such way, make your own, you'll have people try to copy it and trying to do that. So you obviously hit something that someone like that aesthetic and try to recreate, I suppose, which is a nice sort of thing to strive for, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. And, you mentioned a couple of things there. Can I expand on those, like you've got daytime street photography, you've nighttime street photography, like you've got, as you say, reflections, so conditions and stuff like that, and we'll talk about that, I suppose, in a part in a bit more detail, because I think that's a kind of a real interesting aesthetic that, exactly as you say, somebody will see something that they walk past every day, but they may not have noticed it in that light or that framing. But do you prefer to do your street photography during the day, or do you prefer the nighttime opportunities?
If I were to give a good answer to that, I'd say I like it in autumn or spring, when I can go out at 4 o'clock and even after I get home early from work, go out with the camera and it's bright. You get a bit of harsh light, you get sunset, and then stay on into 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. Yeah. So you get a whole suite of images over evening. Whereas if you're a landscaper, you're on the side of a lake, come dusk, once blue hour's gone, then you're finished. Where in the city, you do have that sort of bit of a scope to keep going. Yeah. Just see as long as your feet can last you, I suppose, walking around with your bag and everything.
Well, this is true. Like, I mean, like the evening, I think, can probably give you more opportunity, because there's probably less people as well around on the streets, so that you can kind of see things, I imagine, a bit clearer from what you want to try to get the
definitely. Taking a cinematic shot of Grafton Street at 6 o'clock on Friday evening, it's not going to do anything because you're going to have thousands of people walking up and down. But if you can have a nice lonely street with nice lighting and one person walks through or something, that one does make a difference, and it's harder to get that, with your rush hour traffic or foot traffic as well, I suppose.
But back in the day when pubs and nightclubs were open, you'd get it every Saturday morning, I'd say. You see people kind of crawling back up Grafton Street after a night in the town. And, I suppose one question I kind of want to go into a bit more detail is on the challenges really that you might encounter. For me, for argument's sake, like I said, I've gone into town, but I've only ever gone into town in the evening time with somebody else. I've never gone in on my own with the camera, because I don't want to be bringing the tripod, number one, because it brings attention. Number two, I don't want to bring the camera because that will bring attention. So is like, what sort of challenges have you encountered, not just from that point of view, but in general?
Yeah, look, to be honest, I've never had any hassle or any, you know, ruffians come up and hassling with a camera or anything like that. Definitely haven't. But like, you're absolutely right. Like, walking around with a couple of grand's gear, you know, if you're just unlucky, you could have a bad interaction. Like a lot of time we would text the group chat and get a few lads and we head out. And there's always one or two people that are up for a shoot, whether you stroll around or set up the tripod somewhere and do long exposures or whatever it may be. But even just go for a bit of crack and or wander around, like
a bit of a walk, yeah.
yeah.
And like, from the ability to be able to take the photographs, then, you know, during the day, as an example, like, not from the safety in the evening, but do you find that you might want to take a night shot and get a light trail, as an example, and, you know, you're waiting for the Lewis to come by or a bus to come by, and, you know, it's too late, just the frequency is after been, you know, later or whatever it may be? Like, what sort of challenges do you encounter there trying to set up a shot or get a shot?
Yeah, no, I probably wouldn't even think that would be too much of a challenge for us. Like, especially the less frequent there is, you know, if you're in a busy street there, you've cars, but you'll always have 10 or 12 double bus fly along after 20 minutes, so you never have long to wait. I suppose it gives a bit more flexibility than landscape in that regards. The weather, I suppose, is one big one. I suppose if you're getting a rough few weeks of wind and rain, like, it can be a bit miserable. Now you want to use the weather to your advantage sometimes, but it does get the spirits down as well if you lose motivation. And motivation is definitely something that I think everybody struggles with from time to time. You just sort of getting up off your arse to get out is the thing. When you've nothing to look forward to in terms of, like, I've nothing to shoot, I've no plan. I don't want to shoot the fucking spire again or something. You need to just throw in headphones, throw on some music, and go out for a stroll. And, you know, there's never once you don't come back without some sort of photo that you're happy with. I always say that, like, just go out with it and you'll do something.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? You could probably come across something that you weren't expecting as well, and you prefer to have the camera with you, than not have the camera with you. And, like,
absolutely,
like, I've often thought there, it was at the beginning actually of the whole lockdowns and everything else in March of last year, and, you know, city centres being empty and such like that. And I was thinking, you know what, would I get up early one morning and go into Cork City and get photographs of the ghost city? There was nobody around, you know.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, okay, yeah, sure, I might go in there and I'll give it a go. And then I was like, sure, if I'm going in there, then aren't I breaking the legislation to be able to go in there? And all of a sudden take my luck that I put an image up and someone go, who are you? They're breaking all the rules. And I, you know what, it's not even worth it in relation to that. So I was saying, okay, would I go off and get a photograph just for myself, just to have it documented? And then I saw something in the paper where one of the local news photographers had taken street shots. I was like, okay, well, if I want it now so badly, I could just get that. So, I mean, like, I think street photography can give you different styles and different types of photographs that you may not even have expected. And, like, early morning, I think, is something that always attracts me, particularly with Cork, because you've got the river that goes through the centre of Cork, and early morning you get the sunrise, and it gets beautiful in relation to that. But it's something that I'd like to do more. Similar in Dublin, you know, with the bridges, you're straight down, and you've got, you know, Samuel Beckett Bridge and everything else with the sun rising behind it if you're shooting west to east. So, like, how about the morning time? Is that something as well where you kind of have taken photographs where the city comes to life, or are you a night owl?
I'm a night owl, yeah. I struggle to even get up for work at 8 o'clock. So and at this time of year, when sunrise at fucking 3 a.m. or whenever it is, I don't know. I struggle with it, yeah. So I'll get up, I'll go out for the nice morning light, but I'll rare enough for sunrise. So, and it'll have to be a special one, you know. There's guaranteed mist, there's guaranteed sunrise, there's going to be deers or something epic is going to be there. That'll get me up, but, or a bit of guilt as well off a few lads maybe.
The guilt.
I struggle with motivation in the mornings.
Maybe one day now we'll see that you gave yourself a funt up the backside, and we'll see some.
Maybe after trying now, I'll stay up all night. You've been hearing yourself to go out at 3 o'clock in the morning to stay up and.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in the summertime you have to stay up all night. Yeah, it's an absolute dose. All right, listen. Look, what I'm going to do. I really enjoyed the kind of intro there to your photography. I'll take a very, very quick break, and we'll be right back with more questions after this. If you're enjoying this episode of the Irish Photography Podcast, why not jump back and listen to the back catalogue we have of episodes, where you'll get some great insights from fantastic guests, gear reviews, lots of hints and tips, and above all else, keeping you company while you drive or relax. Thanks very much for listening. Please consider subscribing, leaving a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. And you're very welcome back to the Irish Photography Podcast. So, Neville, thanks very much for kind of giving me the intro in regards to your photography style and street photography. A couple of things I kind of want to get a bit more meat on the bones are things that I remember a couple of years ago I saw you went to Asia on a trip. What was that about?
It was actually in China.
China, okay, yeah.
China, yeah.
China's in Asia, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah. It's over there.
All right, okay. She's talking about the second mistake. Go on,
that was actually mad. I've done a few little jobs with Huawei, the phone company.
Okay,
sort of promo stuff. You've ever seen all the photographers jumping ship from the cameras to the phones for a while,
for a couple of weeks or 3 or 4 weeks, yeah.
But I've worked on them over a couple of years, doing small little bits here and there, not major, not professional photographer. So
okay,
that was that. And one Monday morning, I just got an email in my inbox asking to see would it be free in November just to go to China for a week. And I was like, this must be the wrong person. There's such a Nigerian printer trying to get me.
Yeah.
Like, what is this about? And it turns out they had a concept for this. It's called a super fan trip, inverted commas, I'm saying there. And what they want to do is essentially bring a whole host of people from around Europe together to basically show off China, show off their products, really. So look, if you offer a man a free trip, you can't turn it down. Now, I was expecting there's no such thing as a free lunch, but there was lots of free lunch, and they really looked after us. So they brought us to Shenzhen and Shanghai for 5-6 days, 3 nights in each city.
Nice.
Went around, put up a lovely hotel. They gifted us, I suppose, the newest the phone at the time, whatever, Mate 30 Pro, I think it was, or something.
Okay.
Sent us around with it, sent us off for using it, John testing out. No real expectation to give them anything or send them any JPEGs or anything like that. Just sort of a bit of posting. I didn't have a big social media. I didn't have a huge following or anything like that. I don't have a huge following. So I think they just want to show what a positive company they are. And I fair to them. I think they're a great company. They've always been nice in how they approach the photography community, I suppose. I think Samsung probably tried to get in on that, but I don't think it took off really. But I couldn't really fault it. It was fantastic. So I don't know if you've seen pictures of Shenzhen or of that city before. It's crazy. It's like New York of China, the big tech city. So got to shoot all the skyscrapers and get up and get these crazy shots of these mad scenes of neon lights, like something of Blade Runner. So that was me in my element. Really enjoyed it. China's it's not what I expected. I probably had negative opinions of China previously, from American media and that sort of stuff, but it was a fantastic, great experience. Yeah, amazing food, nice people, just all hustle and bustle. It's crazy.
That's a mad trip to be able to go on. I mean, like you say,
it's like trip of a lifetime, really.
And hang on, as George Hook would say, back up the truck there a second. So you get the email on the Monday morning. Did you think it was spam? How'd you get verified?
Honestly, I honestly thought it was meant for some influencer with 50,000 followers or something. I don't know what it was, but one of my friends, Ross, he actually works for Huawei, and he said that they do it every couple of years. They'll get people from around Europe and Australia and send them off. So they know how to do their promo, I suppose, don't they?
They said when you got the email, and how long afterwards did they ask you, were you free to go somewhere?
Oh, it's probably maybe about 3 weeks. So,
okay, you had a small bit of time to plan. It wasn't the next day you went, okay, I'm not going to work tomorrow. I'm going to China.
But it was November, and I was close to having used up all the holidays and stuff for the year. So I said to the manager, like, what's the crack? I'm after sort of been asked on a trip, and he was like, go on, go for it, I suppose. And brilliant. Work back a few days, yeah.
Brilliant.
So that was that, yeah.
And so you went to China. You were using the Huawei, whatever the model of it is, and such like that. They brought you to all. I remember seeing the images, going, as you say, it looked like Blade Runner. It looks totally futuristic. And
Oh, it is, yeah, yeah.
I had somewhat of a view on what China would look like, but even at the time, I'm going, wow, is it that modern? And it
Yeah.
was. I mean, like it was just incredible. Like it looked as if it was a brand new whole city that was just being built for you guys to come and take photographs of. But it
It
was.
is though. That's the thing. It's brand new. Like when you arrive in Shenzhen, they say so. Shenzhen is right beside Hong Kong. You fly into Hong Kong,
Uh-huh.
you sail across the bay, then you land in Shenzhen, and I think there's a sort of a tour guide on the little minibus for the few of us. And he said, like, when he lived there 30 years ago, it was a fishing village. It was, you turn up in your sailboat and
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
looking at the farmers on the side of the river. And now it's the kids same size as New York, like it's mad.
Wow.
So it is
Wow.
to have. Well, I suppose when the communists came in, they really upped their game there. You do a bit of communism in Ireland for 2 years, maybe to sort out the infrastructure and get something right.
Yeah, at least we need somebody to make a decision anyway and stick with a decision. That's
Yeah, I
one
think
thing.
so.
we
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Yeah. Unlike Micheál Martin,
So,
but anyway, that's a different story.
so
But
yeah,
actually,
that's Shenzhen, and I suppose they brought us to Hong Kong then, or sorry, Shanghai
okay.
again, but that was more of a cultural side of it. They brought us to show us their manufacturing facility. They and then did more historical stuff, seeing the old historical the Buddhist temples and all that type of stuff. And
Wow.
that was nice to see the proper Chinese aesthetic, and I suppose the sort of real Oriental Asian look. So yeah, really, it was unique and just sort of an opportunity to take images that you probably wouldn't ever
Yeah.
get. Like
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't. Now. It'd be a
Absolutely.
long time before I could afford a trip to China. So
What do you know? What now? I tell you, I remember looking at the time, going, "Geez, I'd love to know more about that and how it would have happened." But
yeah.
even still, like one final question I suppose I have for you on that is, what was the highlight and what was the low light of the trip?
I struggled to get low light, to be honest.
Okay,
Um,
interesting. The old low light was coming home.
One of the highlights, I suppose, is the just seeing that type of culture shock again. It was like going to Morocco. Culture shock is one thing. Going to traveling in Africa is a culture shock, and then culture shock in China is, God, it's completely different than what I expected. It's such more modern, such more westernized than I thought. Like going into nightclubs and just sort of completely unexpected. Like I thought more trying to be more traditional, sort of laid back, and but no, definitely not that experience at all. Like
Wow. Wow.
amazing food though, amazing, amazing sort of culture, I suppose, to walk through like the old French colonial area.
Uh-huh.
They bring out their old people just to come out and celebrate life, and just every day to come out dancing and sitting around like the furthest thing you'd see from a nursing home with like 90-year-old women all out dancing all day, like, and just walking around that. Like, it's a way of life I never expected before. So
Yeah, even
that was
imagine it's
a
possible.
highlight
Like,
for me. Yeah.
Wow. And not long after was it not long after that then it was something as well I saw that you started doing, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Toyota that you were working with, but you were working as well to take photographs of a car, and you had a new car that was out and you were given the task of taking photographs of that around anywhere, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, a couple of times. Yeah, so that was another, I suppose, a nice opportunity as well that presented itself. One of the guys that worked for the social communications part of Toyota, he emailed me one day asking would I be interested in doing some sort of promotion for them.
Nice.
You've probably seen like a lot of car companies and stuff do that. They'll get influencers and stuff to go off and
Use
bloggers
something
or vloggers or something go off with the car interesting stories. And he said, look, would you, if we can give you a car and a few quid, could you go off and give us sort of I suppose a small pack of like 50 photos or something of the car, sorry, 30 photos of the car or something. But take the car off for a week, we'll give you a few quid, petrol money, go off on a road trip. So hard to turn down that as well. I wouldn't say like I'm not a professional photographer, so you're doing it in your spare time. You're using it as a way to get around the country. You do a bit of sort of, it's not even quid pro quo, but it's something different, I suppose, Darren, really, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You're not. You're just if you're offered opportunity, I would say take it. I would say yes to things like that, and you can only progress your sort of your hobby and your career if you're trying to make a career, I suppose.
You know what? You're very, very right. And I suppose there's a couple of ways to look at that as well. Because you could have somebody turn around and say, okay, yeah, they've asked me to do this. Okay, they want 30 photos. Okay, I'm going to charge them €100 a photo or whatever it may be. And then they say, no, I don't have any budget for that. I mean, there's an argument, and that I can see where people from a professional point of view will go, there has to be a budget for this. Why are you telling me there's no budget? You want me to do this for free? Blah, blah, blah. But on your own point of view, as you say, you're not a professional photographer. You get an opportunity to get Quick Pro. I can get my cars paid for. I can go around the country. Why not just take some photographs for it? It doesn't bother me. It makes no difference to me. So, and the thing about then is, like, I saw those images. I remembered it. So I'm sure there's other people then that would go, do you know what? I want to get this done. Hang on, I saw a guy here. And that's it. It's like your CV to a certain extent. It gives you
absolutely. Yeah. So like I have on my website, I have like an automotive section of any throw up any of those images, and I have been contacted a couple of times since for small things. But yeah, like when there's a professional photographer sitting somewhere, I listen to this screaming and saying, "Oh, this is my fucking job,"
Yeah, of course.
I'm not putting my hand asking for people to throw a job to you. If someone asks you to do something, say yeah. That's my opinion. Sorry about you.
And look, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. If you decide to do it because you want to do it, I mean, if you didn't decide to do it, you'd have somebody giving out to you saying, "Neville, you should have done it." And if you didn't do it,
you can't win.
You can't. I mean, the only way you can win is to be happy and confident in what decision you make yourself to be, and that's it. You can't sugarcoat any other way. And I think there's many things that you could do for a friend of yours that he might need you to help with. And you might take that photograph, not even thinking that it was something that could be beneficial. And you might just post and go, I did this with a friend of mine last week, something different. I played around with lights or whatever. And then all of a sudden, now you've got another set of repertoire that you can see. And someone's looking for a type of image. There it is. Oh, I contact this guy. So it's the same net result. It's depending on how you get to that, I suppose. But yeah, no, there were two things I think that I was interested in kind of learning more on. And I think, when I was looking at the different styles of the images and the different things like that, I was thinking, you know what, I must try and get, myself into kind of more of an urban kind of situation. Because I do like the whole aesthetic of the neon lights. I do like the whole idea of what you can create in a nighttime image. I do like the whole idea of creating a story, with the car as an example. I mean, some of the images you took of that is a lifestyle situation. You're taking pictures of the
absolutely,
inside of the car. So like, you're just documenting it like everybody else would document their life, except that you didn't have to pay for that car to get documented. You got the car for whatever period of time free. So
and sort of a nice attached that, I suppose. So that's with Toyota. So that they were doing their Corollas and those new hybrid cars and stuff. But they actually contacted myself and Fred Kelly one day. Then they were looking for photographers to do a track day. The brand new Supras, and they brought out three or four of them out for a track day and brought us out and asked them to shoot them and then throw a few laps around the car as well. So
nice.
It's like, 100%. I'm doing that. As long as I'm actually dumb to pay for it, I'll happily do that. Like, yeah, definitely.
Where was that, Mondello?
Mondello, yeah. Great crack now, yes, very enjoy. Yeah.
Mandello's a great spot. I've spun off that track so many times, it's ridiculous.
Jesus, I wouldn't fancy it now.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't like to do it now in a brand new Supra. That's for sure.
No, I was grinding it around the track.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, driving Miss Daisy. All right, so back to your street photography, right? You've a lot of experience under your belt, and I mean, look, we'll touch on your type of images, I suppose, as well as we go through something in a moment. But I think if somebody was to look at your Instagram account, they will see a plethora of different types of style of photography from the street genre. Nighttime shots, daytime shots, product images and stuff like that. But first question I suppose I'd have for you on that is, what advice would you give to somebody who's starting out in street photography? Like when they look at your images and go, geez, yeah, I'd love to be able to do that. What would be the first bit of advice that you could turn to somebody and say, this is what you need to do or need to think?
Yeah, I might touch on your own, I suppose, but bring the camera with you. If I'm going in doing a bit of shopping, I'm going for a pair of jeans and pennies or something, I'll probably throw the camera in the car and tip in, take it out with me, and it's familiarity first of all with your camera, your gear. Being able to change your settings really quickly. If you're sitting on the side of a cliff, coming to sunset, you think you have a shot done, but you have to be able to change your settings and get it right very quickly. Moving and adapt, as they would say. Same with street photography as well. You're constantly shifting your shutter speed and your aperture just to try and pick out a subject or get your big scenes of getting that familiarity there, having your gear with you all the time, and then I suppose really sort of trying to find unique frame, the unique aesthetic that might sort of make something stand out. So, if you're focusing on sort of people and the likes, then you're looking for characters. Really, you're looking for either, the grumpy looking person, beautiful young woman, or a dodgy old lad or something. Like there's always someone that will just scream that they want that's a nice picture.
There's a story in that face.
There's definitely. And I wouldn't say I'm amazing at that. There's some amazing street photographers around Dublin. I don't classify myself as being anywhere up close to their grade. I dabble in so much stuff that I wouldn't be master of any of them, to be honest. But I like just being able to watch the scene unfold. So I think that's important. Take your time and feel comfortable to sit up in a spot and hang around in the corner waiting for something to happen. Because that's. Yeah, I think people are sort of a bit too impatient when it comes to photography a lot of times. Well, they'll try and rush things and try and get an amazing image first time. Whereas get your settings right. Get your maybe think about your shutter speed. Do you need to lower? Do you need to drop it down to maybe bring a bit more drama? Something like that to bring to your images. Yeah.
I suppose it all starts by having the camera with you, as you say, bring it out with you.
Have it as a third arm. Like you need sort of that familiarity, I think, to be honest.
Yeah. One thing that you said there, and I suppose maybe if I added a bit of advice to it, and I'm not qualified to give the advice to it, but anyway, shape or form, but I think it comes as natural. If you say you're going to stand around in the corner and wait for the shot, okay, don't wear a long trench coat.
No. Yeah. When I say that, you can. I find just standing with the camera, as long as we said earlier on, like as long as you look like you know what you're doing, people assume you know what you're doing. Yeah, nobody knows what you're doing, but if you have that sort of bit of confidence.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I suppose something else then as well I'd like to touch on, because I kind of mentioned earlier on, is rain. And rain, I think, in an urban environment is something which you welcome, I imagine, because it completely changes the opportunity from what you can get. Now, I don't think you welcome the rain as it's raining, but obviously that can still give you a certain type of photograph too, because people have to have an umbrella, people have this facial expressions, they're getting wet, etc. But after it stops raining, you get puddles. So tell me about rain. How much of a tool is it from a street photography point of view?
I suppose we as photographers, you have the benefit of being able to stop time, don't you? So even if it is raining, what I like, if you're out on a Sunday afternoon and it starts pissing down rain, but it could be a sun shower or something, try and shooting into the light, which most people would say never to do. And landscape photography, you tend not to do it much, but shooting into the light and try and get your raindrops backlit and stuff, get it, nice fast shutter speed, and next thing you know, you have a cinematic image there of like rain just stood in time,
frozen in time,
and having someone walk through it, it's hard to recreate that. And it's a really effective tool, I think, for that sort of cinematic sort of vibe if that's what you're going for. So like pissing down the rain, I suppose it's, even if you've good gear and even if it's nice waterproof, no one likes getting their stuff absolutely soaked. It just doesn't feel right. Like you're not walking around with a shower cap, I suppose, in the middle of Grafton Street like you would on the side of the cliff. But I suppose then once the rain goes, they're like not even reflections, but I think it gives you can sort of use that to your advantage to get colours, and even just shifting your hips, getting down a little bit more, just changing your angle. You can do funny things with a camera, I suppose. Most people will never get down on their knees and have a look on the ground, but when they see some sort of reflection, and look, everybody knows that it's a bit overdone, but it still is a nice tool to have in the arsenal, isn't it? You can get some cool, effective images that most people will say, "God, that looks cool." Some people will overuse it, and I'm probably guilty of doing it from time to time. But that's because I went out one Sunday and got 50 pictures in the rain, so that's what I did that day.
Yeah, and the thing I always love about that is when you look at the image, you think that this puddle that you were next to was huge, but the puddle was small.
It's size of your hand or something, maybe. Like,
and it's looking down, it's spotting this and going, okay, there's a reflection here from it. What can be reflected within it? As you say, get down the ground, I mean, like, yeah, that it will change it dramatically. But what I love, and particularly in regards to your images as well, is that when you do have the reflections on it, you're seeing not just a mirrored image, but you're seeing the colors as well of the
Mm,
city reflecting even more. So then you get a
yeah,
double source of light in reality because it's coming off the water, which
yeah.
makes it even more cinematic and more dynamic as well.
Yeah, like I suppose like if you get right down the ground, you're going to get like a 50-50 mirror split sort of image. But
Yeah.
even just on a like just using the wet ground with cars and stuff going by, you can just get the nice, lovely orange or yellow or red tones back in a nice cool image. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, it's class. And I suppose speaking of tones, I remember I would have asked you. I think it was probably one of the first questions I asked you. Actually, it was in relation to your editing because I noticed that
Mm.
you had a certain color palette which I really, really liked, and I was like, Jesus, man, these are great. And I had remember at the time going, okay, I'm asking this. They had Peter McKinnon once, like, get out of here. Where are the people's Judeans front? And I was like, oh no, this is my own. I was like, oh, sorry about that, man. I just it looks so good, So like you've got your own style from an editing
Mm.
point of view. Talk us through how you typically would edit a shot. I know there's no one style or one edit for every shot, but how would you
Oh, presets all the way
take in
there.
colors?
Presets all the way. Buy a preset and just slap
PNC,
'em
yeah.
on. No, do you know what? Actually, the last year or 2 years ago, I jumped ship from Lightroom to Capture One.
Okay.
And that was a good decision I made. I was just sick of just paying the subscription to Adobe. I hate giving them money every month, so I
Hmm.
went off and got Capture One. I shoot with Fuji as well, so that they have specialized software for Fuji as well.
Okay. Yeah.
But they've fantastic sort of color scheme, and it sort of opened up my eyes to get nicer, richer colors to images. Um, so in terms of editing, I suppose I wouldn't do anything crazy in terms of like the tones themselves. Probably more focus on color.
Okay.
Using complementary colors. You know, hate to say the whole world of orange and teal, but
Hmm.
using them wisely to a subtle effect can have a nice effect on the image. I think I do. I suppose I do try and find rich colors in scenes if possible. I like shooting golden hour is key really. Like no matter
Hmm.
where you are, I do
Hmm.
definitely use that to my advantage. Try and pull as much richness out of that. If you're I suppose even if you're just on using the tripod, for example, like just getting a long exposure in the city, it just as its own said, like you can get incredible images.
Hmm.
Um, I'll definitely try and I definitely try and maximize that as much as possible. But there's not I don't get a whole lot. You don't get a whole lot of sunsets.
Hmm.
Um, this time of year or in the busy cities, which I like to
Hmm.
do. So then you're back to trying to yeah, it's hard to describe. Trying to get a nice image that has that sort of richness to it already. And once you jump into Lightroom or Capture One, then trying to bring that richness now. So not over egging the saturation or anything like that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's hard one to balance, I suppose.
When you're for example, taking your image, are you shooting in landscape mode primarily or portrait mode first and foremost,
Um,
or both? Does it matter?
I I no, I'll flip between. I probably would be portrait. I'd say 60-70% of the time, maybe.
Okay.
Um, yeah, you'd hate to be influenced by just by where you end up posting images to Instagram, but yeah,
Instagram.
I
Yeah.
do,
Yeah. Yeah.
and your phone and how people absorb images. I suppose I don't know if would you feel guilty of doing it yourself at all?
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, it's interesting for me because I would primarily shoot in landscape because from a
Mm,
landscape photography point of view, but I would take the portrait shot just to have a portrait image. But I find that it really annoys me. It pisses me off, to be honest with you, with Instagram, because if I try and post an image which is landscape orientation and I want to
yeah,
share it on Facebook and Instagram, I have to change the aspect ratio to match Instagram.
yeah, it's a
So,
nightmare. Yeah,
and I'm like, seriously, stop trying to pigeonhole me into a shape of an image that you want me to shoot in. I mean,
mm,
Instagram would have been originally the square format, fine, but
yeah,
not all images suit the square format. And like, I find that if I'm taking an image which is portrait orientation, just like, what comes to mind is when thinking of a puddle as an example, and you want to get an elongated view of the puddle
yeah,
with something that works by having the camera and pointing the camera down at an angle in a portrait way. But if you took that shot in landscape, you probably would have the same thing, but you won't get the lengthening effect that you would get ordinarily by being in portrait. So I think portrait can suit the style of street photography more so than landscape photography. So I find that, I primarily shoot in landscape, but not as often as I actually would think that I do. I shoot in portrait quite a lot as well.
You're really, you hit the nail on the head there with the being pigeonholed. It's very frustrating not being able to share an image properly and have people just swipe past it if they so feel it, because it's too small looking. But I found definitely a lot of time recently, if I have a nice landscape image, I'll use the swipe feature and break it up into multiple images, so you can swipe through and see it big, and then see the three shots then in one, actually.
Yeah, and here's a question now for you on that, because that's something that I toyed with doing. Because actually, an image I taken there, I actually released it today, but it was a kind of a panoramic shot that I'd taken. I ended up cropping it down to be panoramic, but it was never intended. It was just a standard image. But I wanted to do exactly that. But the only way for me to do that, I believe, is to go in and get the image into Photoshop and then crop it into 3 equal size squares. And then I get 3 images that I put up on Instagram. And I have all this extra work for me to do this Rolodex. I can't just do it automatically.
I'll give you lessons of what I use is an app called Pano Crop. I think it's Panorama Crop.
You gave me that app before. It won't work properly on an iPhone. It works on Android, all right, but it won't work on iPhone.
I'd say there's other ones, but I use that in Snapseed. And I'll finish up my editing on the laptop, shoot over on Dropbox, and just do that, and it just flips it out in 2 seconds. It works perfectly. So I'd say there's definitely an iPhone version, because I haven't gone to Photoshop just to do something silly like that. It's
a head wreck. You go off and you do the whole image. I mean, I don't use Photoshop that often because I think there's too many buttons. It scares me.
Same. Yeah.
No, I use Lightroom because I meat and potatoes. I know exactly what I need to do, and I know how to do it in that way. But then I have to, for every time I get an image like that I want to do specifically for Instagram, I have to then send that to Photoshop, do all this messing around, get 3 images that are exported to my computer. I then got to send them to my phone so that I'm not. Do you know what? No. So I will gladly take any bit of advice. If anybody knows of a iPhone program that will do it in 2 seconds or 3 seconds or 4 seconds, I'd accept 4 seconds even on that. I'd happily take it, because when you go through the whole editing process, and then you have to do an extra step specifically for that. No thanks.
Yeah, it's frustrating. But even on the chat about crops, I suppose one thing I absolutely love is trying to use a cinema style crop, which is what is, I suppose, not 16:19, 22:3, is it?
Mm-hmm.
That really ultra wide crop there, it completely transformed an image. Even if you're sitting with the amazing shot behind you there of the Atlantic, in the Skelligs and the Atlantic, but when you see something like that cropped down to 22:3, it just completely transforms it. Especially if you get it into a frame, it looks like it comes straight out of the cinema. It's definitely. But posting on Instagram, good luck. It just. No one every season. It looks like a stamp. You just swipe past it.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It's all that work, and you go, you know what? No, I wouldn't bother doing it in relation to that. So, look, I think editing is something that has to be your own style. I think you definitely have a style of editing which I really, really like. And like I said to you, like we said at the outset, they were so good. I was like, Jesus, they're yours. Sorry, what that, man? Jesus.
Thank you.
It's your work. It's your own, style that you were putting it. And as you say, the teal, it definitely has a lovely effect, but complemented with orange, and you're like, yeah, Jesus, this is it. And I see styles like that on a lot of people's images, but it's mainly for urban, because it's not going to work. The image.
No, with an acre ocean, it doesn't work at all.
An orange ocean is definitely going to look synthetic,
Yeah, I know you have to use them techniques sparingly, I suppose, but it's more so having a good understanding of the color wheel. And, watch a half an hour video on color theory and stuff, and just sort of apply that knowledge to your Lightroom or Capture One or whatever you may use, and just doing that will actually make a big difference to editing styles, I think. That's something I definitely recommend.
Yeah, I agree. And remember that the slider isn't supposed to go to Spinal Tap 11. It's never supposed to go.
No, definitely just subtle.
Yeah, small little increments. Small. I think everybody does it though when they first start out. It's like, oh, look at that! It's
Yeah,
like a color diarrhea.
if someone says they've never put up clarity up to 11, then they're lying, because you have to do it, get out your system, and then come back to you sort of realize
Absolutely.
where you went wrong. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Two final questions, I suppose, there for you before we go for our last break, right? Have you a favorite location that you like to shoot for street photography, urban photography, or anywhere in general for photography?
Um, for street and urban, God, I'd say that maybe I was in San Francisco a couple of years ago in LA. San Francisco, I really, really enjoyed that. Now
San
it's a,
Francisco's beautiful, yeah.
it's a cool place. Like, and just walk around Chinatown, places that you wouldn't get to shoot. Um, I'd say that'd be up there in terms of street photography. LA, I don't recommend it. Hated that place. I hope I'll never go back there. So I would definitely wouldn't use that. No, didn't like it. That's for sort of streety, urbany stuff.
Yeah.
If I were to put my landscape hat, maybe off to the Faroes, Isle of Skye, mood and atmosphere. That's the type of thing I like as well when I'm out in the wild, I suppose.
Nice. Yeah. You know what? I think both those locations that you've mentioned, I haven't been to the Faroes, but I can only imagine how beautiful it is. But San Francisco is incredible for photos. I mean, you mentioned Chinatown there. Every corner you turn around, there's a character, there's a story. And you've got everything backed up as well with all the lanterns that are there the whole way through. You've got all the collages that are on the buildings. You know, you've got that whole Chinatown atmosphere, which is oozing from everywhere in San Francisco. I loved it for photography.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. And the final question there before we go on the break, we kind of touched on it there a moment ago. It's just, editing your images for social media and stuff like that. But I just think in general, so how I know you is through social media, and social media is very, very important, obviously, but it's constantly changing. And, the latest thing there on the news now the other day is that Instagram is moving away from images and no longer wants to be a platform for images. It only wants to be a platform for video. So,
wow, I didn't hear that now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the latest that they're saying now. And I think the reason for it is because, TikTok and whatever is, taking over from the shorts, and YouTube trying to do shorts, and video is more immersive, and an image, as you say, people scroll by it so quickly. But I think social media is constantly changing, and that's just one thing at the moment. But I'm interested to get your thoughts, I suppose, on social media these days. How do you think it is? How do you think it's evolving? Where do you think it belongs in?
It's probably one contention with a lot of people. I think I'm definitely losing the graph for Instagram and posting there regularly. I would have definitely posted every other day anyway at best times for a couple of years. And just once Reels and TikToks and all that crap started, I absolutely hated it. I tried probably doing one or two Reels. It was like, it's not for me. I don't enjoy doing video. I know, like, you're big into your blogging, your vlogging. That's different to these 15-second sort of instant gratification of a video of someone doing absolutely nothing on TikTok. That's killing Instagram as well, trying to compete with it. So it'd be nice if there's another platform to jump up soon. I suppose that maybe the people jump ship to just for images, because I'm probably one of the first people to go. I'd say.
Well, the talk is that it's Twitter. The talk the talk is where Twitter is becoming more of a community, and particularly since the NFT world has been created and evolved, and there's a big community around Twitter now supporting its photographers, liking for other photographers, and helping each other out, I suppose, really, and retweeting and such like that, which is eventually or originally what Instagram would have started out from. But I think Instagram now, I think, for me anyway, I think it's too Facebook, it's too commercial, and it's too wanting to kind of control the way I have to show my images. Like, no thanks. I mean, if you look at Twitter as an example, now there's a disadvantage to this too. You can put your image up on Twitter and it goes up full res, but the problem there is that somebody can also download it full res, so you run that risk, But there's a lot to be said. I mean, like, Facebook absolutely destroys images when you put them up there, unless you get the image cropped specifically that's going to fit within the range of Facebook. And Instagram isn't much better, to be honest with you.
No, absolutely not. No.
It destroys any good quality.
Yeah, like I got really Facebook years and years ago. I think I remade one last year. Enter a competition or something. I've never used it since. Like, so I don't use that at all. I don't really like Twitter just for the politics side of it and just getting into arguments with people. I'm trying to avoid it. But yeah, if it's somewhere to sort of share your work, we all say we hate social media, but it is ultimately important. I've made so many friends, and actually really good friends through
Yeah.
Instagram and meeting up with other photographers. Tinder for photographers, as people
Tinder
said.
for photographers.
Yeah, like
and you know what? One thing Bernard Garrett, he always says, and he's dead right. Like, don't ever give out about something that is for free. You're getting
exactly,
Facebook for free, you're getting Instagram for free, you're getting Twitter for free, everything for free. Technically speaking, he is correct, but also on the other side, it's not free because they're collecting all the data that they can on you every step of the way.
Yeah, you're the product.
That's a whole different argument for sure. But yeah, I think it'd just be interesting to see how social media is going to evolve now over the next phases, the next iteration. And it's just, I just wanted to get your thoughts, I suppose, really in social media for photography right now. Anyway, that could be different again. I could ask you 6 months' time and you tell me a completely different experience.
Do you know what I'd say will happen then if it, like with Insta, if that move down the heavy video route, it'll shake out a lot of the photographers that are not really photographers, that just do it just purely for the sort of the dopamine hit of the gratification post on Instagram. They'll quickly taper off and there'll be less of that, and probably get more back to a bit more stable, I suppose. There's a lot of drama in photography circles as well, and say that comes from from social media, really. So it'd be nice to stick with people who are just more in it for the art of it, really.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of a popularity contest and a slap on the back and you're amazing, and 25 people tell you that you're amazing and you start believing you're amazing, but the reality is that you're okay.
Big circle there, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right. Look, no, that was great, and I really, really enjoyed you telling me the nuts and the bolts, I suppose, really in regards to your photography. It's been quite interesting so far. What I want to do there is I'm going to take our last break. I have 3 questions I ask every single guest, and I'm looking forward to getting your answers as well there, Neville. So I'll be right back after this. If you're enjoying this episode of the Irish Photography Podcast, why not jump back and listen to the back catalogue we have of episodes, where you'll get some great insights from fantastic guests, gear reviews, lots of hints and tips, and above all else, keeping you company while you drive or relax. Thanks very much for listening. Please consider subscribing, leaving a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. And you're very welcome back to the final part of the Irish Photography Podcast. So, Neville, like I said, I've got 3 questions I ask every single guest, and I'm really interested to hear your answers to these 3 staple questions. First question is, what is a funny photography story?
One of the funniest things I've seen recently, and I'd say a lot of photographers will experience it sometime in their photography career. It was the supermoon, which was there last month. Mm-hmm. It was setting up. It was actually coming up over Dublin Bay, so I, being the right lad, thought I'd get out on my own and get up early. And I went off to Bull Islands and shooting, and started seeing 1 or 2 other photographers there. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm not the only one that caught this. Keep it to myself. And I was standing on the boardwalk going out there, and someone drove past, like, Lawless, are you going shooting there? I was like, who's that? And they drove off and got a phone call in, like, oh, we're all down here at the pier, come on down to us. So went down, and when I got down, there was about 60 other photographers all lined up, standing there beside each other. And for fuck's sake, I thought it'd be the only person out. So anyway, so that was a good crack, just seeing everybody out and enjoying it. Like, it's once in a lifetime shot that you might get it up where everybody's getting it over Poolbeg Lighthouse there. So that was that. We all sort of set up, got our photo pills and all lined out, like trying to pick the perfect spot. But as it turns out, everybody's off about 30 meters to the right where they should have been to get it lined up exactly. And I said, no, feck it, I'm going to do I was doing a time lapse, so I said, I'm not moving, I'm going to stay here. But I looked down then after about 10 minutes, and there must have been about 40 lads now sitting literally on top of each other with the tripods trying to shoot the fucking moon over the layout. And you'd see these images showing New Zealand or China or somewhere, all the photographers, the behind the scenes of a good, powerful image. But the reality is there's hundreds of other people there shooting away. But that was my first experience of that now, and I had to say I got a good laugh out of it, all right.
Yeah, for sure. I couldn't believe it, actually, when I started seeing the stories coming up. I was like, 1 photographer, 2 photographer, 3 photographer. How many photographers are there today? I've never seen.
There's definitely 60. It had to be, at least.
Mad. And again, as you say, everybody all cordoned together at the very, very end to get that perfect shot. And like, as you were saying it there, you were in the wrong space. What was coming into my head was the song is "Every Day I'm Shuffling." Everybody shuffling along, trying to get to the part where they need to go to. Brilliant.
Actually,
Okay.
I have to go back and edit that shot actually because I've got a great time lapse and I let people just post off their same shots and I'll have something different. I think so. I'll do that in a few weeks and get it up.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Okay, so we spoke a lot about different types of cameras and such like that. And you mentioned obviously the first camera that you got was the Nikon. You've mentioned there Fuji. So, what gear do you shoot with?
Yeah, so as you said, you see me posting a lot of phone images. I also use a Huawei phone as well. They're good cameras on phones. I have to be fair to them. But yeah, no, I mainly shoot with a camera. I use a Fuji X-T2. I'm going to upgrade soon enough, but whenever the funds are built up in the account, I get an XT4 maybe.
Nice.
But yeah, Fuji X-T2 for the moment, and all Fuji lenses mainly.
What lenses have you?
Use a 52-30. Have a nice 35mm f1.4.
Nice.
Samyang 40mm wide angle.
Nice.
And 40 other ones after the line around. Let me take a look. Oh yes, I've got a new Filtrox there. If you've heard that brand.
No.
Got an 85mm f1.4, so it's nice.
Nice
portrait lens,
yeah.
Nice, just something different going around, but it's a fucking heavy thing, so I won't throw it on the whole time. But yeah, they're my go-to. Fuji, I like that. Just the mechanical dials and being able to quickly change the settings, as I was saying with street photography, just be able to snap through quickly. So that's what I enjoy about them really.
And they're small and they're light.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what lens you have on, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, when you say you're going to upgrade your camera, I was like, I hope he's not going to say I'm going to go for GFX 100 there. I'm like, what?
No.
Like that's going to be like I probably want 4 times the weight of what you have
Absolutely,
there. Okay, perfect. And the final question then that we have is a VSP. It's a very solid product. It's a product that you won't leave home without. You'd put your name to it if you could. So, Neville Lawless, what is your VSP?
Drum roll. It's probably the least dramatic product I could recommend, but a solid L bracket, Darren, I think is absolutely essential. So I think I use a pig iron one on Amazon, probably 20 quid, but that thing saved my camera so many times. I was saying before we started, like I've dropped the camera down the stairs in the house here once, and I picked it up, and the thing was completely fine. So, if I recommend something solid, get a good L bracket or L cage bracket around your camera, and it throws on a few extra pounds on your shoulder walking around, but it can ultimately save your gear and save so much time as well. Trying to set up sunset or whatever, you have to be able to swap around the camera very quickly. So,
yeah. Agreed. It's a great product. It amazed the amount of people actually that have picked an L bracket as well as their VSP because like I said to you there, I suppose in the outset, it's something that you kind of go, I don't need that, but the moment you use it, I always need this. And
definitely,
yeah. It's a good VSP. Okay.
If I were to give you another one, that would be the Capture One.
Oh, you want 2? Hang on, you want 2 VSPs? Oh, we got double value today. Go on, what's your second VSP?
Yeah, Capture One instead of Lightroom. Get rid of the subscription. Stick with that one-off payment, 350 quid or whatever, and just that changed my sort of approach to photography. I think definitely. So
okay,
recommend get the trial and try it out. Like.
Yeah, I get to try. I actually did get a trial of it there to try it out once, and I found that it was quite interesting. All right. But because I was already doing the Lightroom and I was already signed up for the year, I went, actually, I'll go back to that. And then I completely forgot about it. Now you've prompted me again, I might actually give it a go.
It's commitment to get out of Lightroom. It's difficult. That's what I hate about it. So,
Well, yeah, it's like everything really, though. You don't change. You kind of the first thing about change is the first step. You may not like it, but after that comes the second step and the third and the fourth. And before you realize that you're walking and then running and then you're legging it along as this. So, okay. So, they're all my questions, really. The final things really I have to ask is, where can people get more information on you? Where can they see your fantastic body of work so they can actually understand the beauty of what we've been discussing here and what you have?
I thought you were going to say your fantastic body. I said, whoa.
Of work.
I'd say recommend my website, probably the first place to go to. So it's just lawlessireland.com. Or sorry, .ie. You'll find sort of my more proud images, I suppose. And then after that, then just Instagram. I don't use Facebook or Twitter or anything. I'll occasionally post on Reddit, but that'll be sort of one in 100 days. But Instagram at Lawless Ireland, you'll get me there definitely.
Brilliant. Yeah, so you'll post there on Reddit once in a super blue moon.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly. Just something. One of the sort of the prouder images I'll stick up there that time. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Neville, it's been an absolutely fascinating conversation, man. I've really enjoyed, getting into the background of your photography. I'm looking forward to seeing more of your images now, and I suppose I'll give some links as well in the show notes, and to your social channel and stuff like that as well, so people can go see that beautiful body of work that you have. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, man. Thanks a million.
Oh, you're a legend, Darren. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Slán go fóill.
Hey guys, if you dig what you're hearing, why don't you jump over to iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating and don't forget to share with your friends. With all that done, we'll see you next week, and remember, keep shooting.